It's famous in war and peace. A landmark in the story of flying that's as much a part of the Royal Air Force as Hawker Furies and Spitfires and V-bombers. The place where many of the few, the fighter pilots who fought the Battle of Britain, were trained and won their wings. And this too is Cranwell, the new Trenchard Hall. And the contrast with the traditional college building could hardly be more striking. Like other officer-making institutions around the world, Cranwell has a name stiff with tradition, as if the place itself wore uniform. But it's coming to terms with the age of technology. For almost half a century, Cranwell's been turning out officers likely to reach the highest ranks, and that's still the aim. But today's RAF is as different from what the early flyers knew as a supersonic fighter is from an early biplane. And while technical cadets once trained elsewhere, today they train at Cranwell together with the pilots. It's as much a technical college as a flying school, and cadets can reach Bachelor of Science degree levels as electrical or mechanical engineers. The RAF is trying to bury the image of the technical officer as a wingless wonder who could never aspire to the status of the men with wings. And if he's medically fit and wants to fly, he'll not only get his equivalent of a BSc, but will also fly solo. It's part of a deliberate mixing process at Cranwell today that each of the 4 squadrons of cadets, around 100 to a squadron, is made up of aircrew and ground staff cadets, including the technical wizards of tomorrow. And it's not easy to tell who's who. Here they're working out tactics for a water polo clash with a rival squadron. There is still tradition and a backcloth of ceremonial, but Cranwell today reflects the social changes in post-war Britain. For most of these cadets, there's no family tradition of RAF service, and the accents are those of the regions of Britain. Before the war, Cranwell cadets were almost 100% public school. Today, well over 50% come from grammar schools. The reminders of another Cranwell are never far away. It was back in 1919 that the idea for a college of the RAF came from this man, the first chief of the Air Staff, Lord Trenchard. A year later, it was opened, with Air Vice Marshal Sir Charles Longcroft as its first commandant. Since then, the roll of fame has grown. Cranwell's VC of the last war, Wing Commander Hugh Malcolm. The legendary Douglas Bader. Flight Lieutenant Waghorn, winner of the 1929 Schneider Trophy. And Lawrence of Arabia, whose letter is preserved to recall an age when the cult of personality had freer reign. Lawrence never sought rank in the Royal Air Force, where he called himself Aircraftman Shaw. But here's someone who was promoted. The man who pioneered the theory of jet propulsion while still a Cranwell cadet, Air Commodore Sir Frank Whittle. And now, 25 years after Whittle's first jet took to the air, the technical cadets have a whole roomful of the world's latest jet engines to learn from. Here, they're learning about the electrical systems of aircraft as part of a course lasting 4 years and 8 months. A course that also introduces them to modern weapon systems and space technology.
And others have a rotating reflector.
And, to whet the appetite, a moonshot pin table. The idea is to press the launch button at the exact moment to put your shot in orbit. And it should be easier with a little help from the United States. But for all the changes, Cranwell's not all boffins and laboratory benches. It's the start of a new day. Flying begins at 0800 hours, and many of Cranwell's 70-odd jet provosts stand ready for takeoff. By the end of the day, they'll have flown some 175 sorties, burning up thousands of gallons of fuel in the process. And the pilot cadets will have logged up to 3 sorties each. The cadet pilots do their basic training on these 350-mile-an-hour machines, and the propeller-driven trainers, beloved of pilots of another age, have no place here. In their 3-year course, the teenage cadet pilots will log some 170 hours on the provost, as well as 70 hours advanced flying. And it's here, over this spacious Lincolnshire flatland, and with the constant movement of small aircraft, that Cranwell looks more like its old self. This is the college, the view that 2 generations of earlier pilots remember. The airspace where nearly 600 flyers, decorated in World War II, first learned to find their way around the sky. Once a college for pilots only, and now for cadets of most branches of the RAF, will Cranwell one day turn out technical officers only for a pilotless RAF, using only rockets and guided weapons? Perish the thought, say senior officers. They claim it will never be just a push-button Air Force. They see the need for pilots and other aircrew, such as these navigators training at Cranwell, as far ahead as it's possible to predict. For the navigators, looking ahead means meteorology, astronomy, advanced radar, and even computers. The premium on technical know-how is bound to increase, and the day is not all that far off when the measure of a pilot's ability will be as much in his Bachelor of Science degree as in his flying, in his technical notes as well as his logbook. But for now, it's graduation day for nearly 100 cadets, including 30 technical officers who will stay on for another year and 8 months. The 43 pilots will leave with their wings for other stations and operational training. The Sword of Honor presentation. And who's to say that on parade today, there isn't one to emulate some who paraded here before? The Royal Air Force may never be just a push-button Air Force, but such is progress, if anything in warfare can be called progressive, that the technical officer, rather than the pilot, will probably have the greater chance to add his name to Cranwell's roll of fame. Who would dare predict that among the incoming cadets, there's not some future genius who, like Whittle, will offer the world a breakthrough just as revolutionary as the jet engine?